Hello, everyone. This is the Truth About Real Estate Investing show. My name is Erwin Cito, bringing you the truth about real estate investing, hence the name of the show. This is the Halloween special. I was just at a meeting with my mastermind team, which includes Susan White Livermore, Aaron Moore, Sarah Copeland, Tasha Monahan, Michelle Gauthier, Lucas Wyrot, and Ryan Carr. I think I got everybody. It's a big group. We meet once a month, pretty much full day. For anyone who wants to know how to run a mastermind, we meet a full day in person from 10 to 3 o'clock. And this is one of my many secrets to success that have gotten me to where I am. These folks are all dynamos in their own industry, and I learn a lot from them. Even if I don't learn anything from them, which doesn't happen, I'm always inspired by what they're up to. So again, this is a Halloween special. We're going to do investor scary stories, either scary stories from the actual investment property or things our tenants have done. So this is for fun. Let's not take this too seriously. Understand everyone is a professional investor on this call or on this interview. We were actually just finishing up lunch and I just passed my iPhone around to do a voice memo. So I'm going to do as little edits as possible to keep it real because this is the truth. And also I'll start off with my own story. I've got many. Okay, so I'll start with one of my early investment properties. This is what happens when you don't really know what you're doing. Based on a lot of readings that are out there, you should do private deals, right? And so I think this is roughly about the third deal we did. Again, I'll say I didn't know much back then. So no offense to anyone who's only working on their first or third property. We didn't know what we're doing then. We were approaching the credit crisis. Things were slowing down. We had a motivated seller approach us. This was a property they inherited due to the passing of a family member. So they didn't want the property. It was a duplex. Like, oh, great, multifamily, right? Always buy multifamily. And oh, this is a private sale. Oh, it's a motivated seller. Oh, check, right? This property was in Hamilton. Check, another check. Some things that didn't check boxes, but we didn't know these were problems was the house was built in 1880, around then. Right, it was one of the original properties for that area in that neighborhood, and so there were a lot of problems with the property that we didn't realize. Right, again, it was a private sale. We didn't even get a home inspection. We trusted some tradespeople who, there's nothing like horribly. Nah, actually, there's some things wrong with the house. For example, the driveway was graded so that it directed all the water whenever it rained. A double wide drive, right? A driveway large enough to fit 4 vehicles on it. That driveway was sloped so that all the water from that driveway would direct it towards a basement window. So whenever it rained, that basement would accumulate water. And that basement, being back in the 1880s, was actually constructed out of wood logs. So that's exactly what you think it is. Like think of like a log cabin. Like we've all seen like pictures of log cabins. That's what the foundation walls look like. Packed with, I'm not sure what other construction material, but again, it's a log foundation. I would never again recommend anyone buy a log foundation home. It was a dirt basement as well. There's no concrete on the floor. It was dirt. So if you want to sweep the floor, you can sweep until you're all the way to China because it's a dirt floor. And the water was brown, likely due to galvanized steel plumbing, which would be an eventually very, very, very expensive plumbing job. Lots of problems with the property. That property basically never cash flow, even though the rents were always going up, being in Hamilton, being in a popular area. But again, the rents never went up. We never cash flowed, even though the rents always went up. And we bought it for pretty inexpensive. I think we bought it for like low 200s. But again, with all the maintenance issues and the massive deferred renovations, deferred capital improvements that need to be done, that was a property I would never do again. But what I did learn was what I didn't know. And that's a challenge for new investors is when you're starting out, everything is relative. I think we all know the term, everything is relative. If you see 100 houses, go after the top 20%. This house that I purchased I'm talking about was probably one of the very worst houses I've seen. And I owned it. And on with the show. So our next guest is Susan White Livermore. She forgot to introduce herself, but that's Susan White Livermore. She was a previous guest. She's done over 70 properties personally. My mastermind group follows up with their stories as well. Again, don't take this too seriously. Understand they're still investing because they're doing very well. All right. Have a happy Halloween and I hope to see you soon.
Okay, so my story is probably happened this year. I bought a property that I bought 3 in a row, and the sellers had turned off all the power, all the water, everything to the property. And I went in about a week before I was supposed to take over the property, and we saw ice in the toilets. And so I was starting to freak out thinking, this is not cool. It was like a week before Christmas. And so I called my lawyer and I say, there's ice in the toilets. And she calls me back and says, they've guaranteed that they have winterized the house and don't worry about it. That's normal. And I'm thinking, okay, I don't know this stuff that well, so maybe it is. So we take possession, we have Christmas, and then a week after Christmas, we finally get into the property. And sure enough, all the pipes in that entire house were frozen. So we had to remove all the pipes. But the benefit of it is that we were going in there to renovate anyways. So being that we caught it before they had started to melt, we were able to take them out when they were frozen, so they didn't really damage too much. We turned around and we sued the small claims court. So I ended up making money on it. So it was a benefit to me. So what looked like a bad situation was a bit of a hassle, but it turned out okay in the end. And that's my scary story.
Hi, this is Sarah Copeland, and I'm going to tell you a little story about my tenant. Let's call him Joe. Joe was actually a pretty decent tenant. He rented from me for quite some time in a nice little 2-bedroom apartment. And anything that needed to be fixed, he took care of it. He was wonderful, always paid his rent on time. And then Joe got laid off. And unbeknownst to me, he started bringing people in and letting them crash on his couch to help cover his rent. He was unemployed for a little while. Started hanging out with what I would call the wrong people. And I started getting complaints from my single mom who lived adjacent to him, concerned about the seedy people who were in our building. So I get a phone call one day from her, and she is freaking out, just completely freaking out, because she's home with her 2 little kids, and there are police officers with guns drawn advancing on the house. The entire house is surrounded, and police are advancing, and she's looking at her window going, holy shit, Sarah, what the hell's going on at this house? What's going on next door? So I get on the phone and I call the police department to figure out what's going on. And one of the people who'd been crashing with my other tenant was a heroin dealer. And so they'd been staking out my place and keeping an eye on him and figuring out what's going on. And they busted this heroin dealer dealing heroin out of my apartment. So needless to say, Joe had actually gotten a job and he was at work at that point in time. And told my tenant, stay inside, talk to the police. Once it's all done, make sure everything's okay. Dude was arrested. Everything was fine. She moved very shortly after because she didn't want to be there. But Joe was pretty reasonable about it. Joe came home from work and I went over and I said, dude, we can't have drug busts at my place. It's not really cool. He's like, yeah, I know. I'll pack my stuff and I'll be out by the end of the week. And I said, thank you, Joe. Get the hell out of here. And then all was good. And we haven't had, as far as I know, any more drug dealers in that apartment. Actually, that's the same apartment that my prostitute lived in before Joe. Same apartment. So since then, not my prostitute. Yeah. Anyways, that's it.
What was the outcome?
Okay, so this is Michelle, and my story is about an incident I had in one of my properties. So I had my tenant call me one day, and she says, it smells like cabbage in here. Somebody's cooking cabbage. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I said, just open up the doors and the windows. I'm sure someone cooked some stinky food because we have some people with different ethnicity backgrounds in the building. I said, I'm sure someone's cooking something, just, So the next day she calls me and she says, it smells like baby diaper in here. I'm like, oh, geez. I said, I don't know. I'm like, I can't imagine what it would be. I mean, is it, I asked her if she's feeling okay and all the rest of it. So the next day she calls me, she's crying. She says, I found out what that smell was. And she says, and I said, what? She goes, it was Randy. The tenant was passed for a couple weeks.
That's gross.
And if you don't know anything about dead people, at a certain point, they remove them in buckets. And they liquefy. So it was pretty nasty. So, yes, that's my scary tenant story.
Probably didn't notice because the rent check wasn't due.
Post-dated checks. I had post-dated checks.
So when did he stop living there then?
So a couple weeks before. And then we put the couch out. You know, I know these things should be done. He passed on his couch. So somebody, police put out on the road. The next day, the couch was gone.
Well, so what are we discussing? Scary stories?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we should get back to the meeting, but this is Aaron. And I don't know, I could talk about this one closet in a house we went to. This was a house with a lot of animal and, of course, people problems. But there was boxes of dog feces stacked in the closet. Oh. I guess this lady had problems with taking garbage to the curb. Maybe it was too much work. But in addition to it being scattered all over the carpet, there were boxes like, I don't know what happened. Maybe she meant to put it in a box and take it to the curb, but they just went in the closet. And then I've seen lots of dead rats in hoarders' houses. I found in the laundry sink, it was just stuffed with clothes, so no one had touched this in years. But it was, I guess, a mouse nest, but they were all dead. So this one house had so many dead rats and mice, and everywhere you turned, there was dead rats and mice. So bring in the pest control. That's a lot of the stink and the death.
What's up, guys? This is Ryan. I call this one burnt house dead guy. I bought a house one time, and the back half of the house was burnt. The homeowner had fallen asleep on the second level, presumably with a crack pipe. He burnt the mattress. He burnt the back half of the house, and I thought it would be a great idea to buy it. So I bought the property. Everything was normal, 30 or 60 day close, no big deal. We get close to closing day, and closing day comes, and I close, and I didn't get a chance to check the property out on closing day. A couple days after that, I get a phone call from the city bylaw saying, we're about to assess your tax roll if you don't come and clean up your mess. I'm like, my mess? I'm not sure I understand. So like a day goes by, I just didn't think anything of it. Day goes by, bylaw officer calls me again. He goes, hey, we're going to assess your tax roll if you don't clean up your mess on the boulevard. I'm like, on the boulevard? What the heck? So anyways, I go by the property and I look, and this drug dealer has left all of the belongings that were inside the house, which was borderline hoarder house, now outside the house between the front door and the street. So the city was going to assess me thousands of dollars to clean up this guy's mess. We're like, okay, we better go over there and deal with this. I didn't know at the time that the newspaper had already been by and plastered me all over the front page as deadbeat landlord doesn't look after his properties. So that was really tough. So I'm like, okay, we better get the boys here. We got to clean this mess up. So we get some dumpsters, get some gloves. We start getting rid of all the garbage, only to find about 200 needles that are scattered through the entire pile. So that was burnt house dead guy. The dead guy portion comes in after I found out that the person that lived there actually got beat up outside and somebody smashed his head in with a brick. He didn't make it. He died off-site. So that was a tough one for us.
At least it was off-site.
It was off-site, yeah.
Well, thank you for the stories.
Have a great day.
Home and cry. Are you local to the Greater Toronto Hamilton area? Are you interested in becoming a real estate investor, earning extra income in your sleep without getting calls from tenants or unplugging toilets? Then please join us live and in person at the Halton Real Estate Investors Group meetings at the prestigious Sheridan College in Oakville, Ontario. Our meetings are catered to both seasoned and novice investors to share and educate the fundamentals and truths about real estate investing so you too can earn seven-figure net worth like our clients and guests of the show. How great it would be to be financially free, to take more time off with your family, retire earlier and more comfortably, or to support your favorite charity. If this is of interest to you, then get on the invite list at www.truthaboutreulestateinvesting.ca/meeting. The host of the meeting is yours truly, Erwin Cito, that's me, aka four-time winner of the Real Estate Agent of the Year to investors for the years 2015, 2016, 2017, and 2018. Results are not guaranteed, but our investor clients who've been with us since 2012 are earning over 400% returns on cash flowing investment property. So come check us out as soon as you can. Due to Ontario Fire Code regulations, we can only have so many attendees, and we have been waitlisted in the past, so don't wait to register at www.truthaboutreulestateinvesting.ca/meeting. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit that subscribe button on iTunes or whatever app you're using. Or we can email you episodes of the podcast as soon as they're published right to your inbox, as soon as they become available each week. Simply go to our website, www.truthaboutrealestateinvesting.ca, and enter your name and email on the right. If you really enjoyed this episode, please kindly leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. I read every comment and I'm grateful for every 5-star review. Thank you again for listening. Now go forth, take action, and never give up, because I believe in you. Till next time, my name is Erwin Cito, bringing you the truth about real estate investing.